Yep.
What up, diggity dog?
How's it going?
I got a joke for you.
What's your joke?
What is a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
You would think it's an R, but it's the C they love. I just remember that joke because you were talking about before we hit record. Uh
Pirates?
Pirates.
Yeah,
Pirates.
pirates. So interestingly, I watched a lot of Bluey while we were on vacation, while we were in Texas visiting family. My mother-in-law has the Disney Plus channel for some reason. I don't know why my mother-in-law has the Disney Plus channel, but she does. So we were watching a lot of Bluey. Um, and I really, really enjoyed watching Bluey. Like it's a good show. I wanted to watch it just as much as the kids did and like got into it and like was laughing along with them. There's some good lessons in Bluey. One of them was about pirates, and Bluey's Bluey and Bingo are the two kids. Their dad is Bandit, and Bandit is like super dad. Like he's like the dad that like a lot of us want to be. He takes the kids a lot. He does a lot of dad time, does dad dates, does a lot of playtime. In this one episode, he was taking his kids to the playground, and there's like a big swing, and he pretends it's a pirate ship. And the kids are the pirates, and they're like hunting for treasure, and they're on the rough open seas, and Bandit is like just playing along. He's a pirate, and he's doing all the pirate language and being loud and funny and crazy. Well, the park is empty. It kind of shows that there's no other kids or families around, so he's just going after it, being this pirate. Well, then another like dad and his kids show up to the park and show up to the playground, and Bandit notices this other family show up, and all of a sudden he like stops being the pirate. Like he doesn't want to be embarrassed to be the pirate anymore. And the kids still want to play. Bingo and Bluey still want to play pirate, and they're like, Dad, be a pirate, be a pirate. And he like kind of looks out of the corner of his eye, and he sees the other dad, playing on the swing set, and he doesn't want to be the pirate anymore because we're assuming he's embarrassed to act that way as an adult, to kind of act like a kid in public. And so I was thinking to myself, like, do I ever do that? And the answer is yes, quite often actually. And had a similar experience a week later while we were in Mexico, and I can go into that. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. It's a deep question, right? Like
Yeah.
it's because immediately my mind goes to because I do that. Yeah, I do. It's strange where I do and don't do that.
Yeah, me too.
And also like, why do I ever care? Because I'm always telling my kids, I'm like, why do you care what like, are you ever literally going to see that person again? Like, who cares? And usually if I'm around people that I do care what they think, like they would all be silly, and like they're the type of people that would, like like we would be in a creek being silly. We'd, whatever. And we've talked about this in the past. Like I love being the guy that like at the playground, the kids go ask their mom, like, hey, can I play, tag with them? Or they come up and ask if they can play. I love that. Not because I want to be the center of, a bunch of kindergartners' attention. It's because I enjoy that interaction. But it's funny because where it did recently, two things happened. Jake is playing tackle football. So there was a camp last week or 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, run by a bunch of high school kids. And Jake, 2 days in a row, was called out as one of the players of the day. Now, typically the players of the day are called out because they bring it and they're just like, they're doing notable football stuff. Well, Jake, I firmly believe he was called out because he was like the biggest cheerleader. He's like, he just over the top exuberance and excitement for other kids and like cheering them on and encouraging them. Right. And I found myself while I was watching him being a little bit embarrassed, being like, dude, just stop being such a like stop
Quiet
cheering so
down, dude.
much and just play. But then a lot of it is the Kinetic Man in our group of dudes forced me to, normally I would say something and then think, right? Ready, fire, aim. Now I think typically I try to think before I speak, and I just was intentionally running through my mind, like, what kind of kid do I want my kids to be? Well, I want them to be encouragers. I want them to be positive, optimistic human beings who build others up. Like, I want all those things. And that's what he was doing. But I was embarrassed by him doing that. And so I really had to assess, like, what is it about me? And what are the things that I'm struggling with that would even cause me to want to discourage my child from being an encourager? Like, that's kind of ridiculous when you frame it that way. So there was that. And then he also, this is Jake heavy, but he also, like, he does not hesitate to hold my hand, but he does like the fingers entwine anywhere. So, like, literally on the football field, when we're walking together, I'm his head coach now. When we're walking together back to the car, he just naturally reaches out and wants to hold my hand. And most of the boys his age, like, they don't ever hold their dad's hand, or they don't do
Yeah,
any of
that's
that
not
kind of
that's
stuff.
not cool as a 10-year-old.
It's not cool as a 10-year-old. And I noticed it, and I'm like, in me, there's a filter that part of me was like, dude, that's not cool as a 10-year-old. Like, none of these boys are. But then the other side of me is like, dude, this is precious. This is absolutely, like, my son feels confident in himself. He feels confident in my love and comfortable with me, that he wants to hold my hand. It's just a natural thing for him. And he enjoys it, and it brings him joy, and it brings me great joy. I
Yeah.
love the fact that every time we walk together, he reaches out and holds my hand. It's a beautiful thing. But again, to your point, there are certain things that my immediate reaction is embarrassment, I'm sorry, for me. And then, appropriately I said embarrassing, I am then embarrassed at my own, like, embarrassment. I'm like, what in the
Yeah.
world? What do I want? My kid not to want to hold my hand? Like, my kid not to want to be close to me? Like, no, that's ridiculous. And so there's this dichotomy of whatever is built in my nature. I thank God that whatever I've done, whatever we've done as parents, and all my kids hold my hand, and they still want to snuggle, even my 12-year-old daughter, right? But we've done something to build in them that level of trust and love. But then the other side of it, there's something in me that is ugly and unresolved, that I have to dig deeper to understand why something like that would even give me pause or cause me to be embarrassed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's super interesting. That I similar. Like, I've been on both sides, to where, like, there's been a time where, like, I don't care, and then there's other times where I do care, and I do have that embarrassment. The time in Mexico I was talking about, we went to Cancun, Mexico, and we were at an all inclusive resort, and one of the nights they have like night event things, and it was like at a glow dance party thing, and they had a DJ, and like the dance floor, it was pretty much just filled with kids, like only kids on the dance floor. They were dancing, and all the parents were kind of back, sitting in the chairs, just kind of watching. And my kids were just going bonkers. Like, they were just having a blast dancing, had like little glow stick things and having a blast. And, like, my kids kept on coming back to the chairs and, like, trying to grab me to, like, come out and dance with them. And I didn't. Like, I was like, no, you guys go have fun. Go have fun. I'm just watching. I'm enjoying you guys watching. And it was because there were no other parents out there. There was no other adults. Like, I literally would have probably been the only adult out on the stage dancing on this, this glow party. And I'm asking myself now, like, why? Like, I didn't know anybody. Like, I didn't know anybody there in Mexico. Like, we were the only ones that we didn't go with anybody. So, like, why would I have been embarrassed and not go out on the stage and dance with my kids? Because, like, they wanted me to. Like, I would have been the fun dad to go out and do that. And I'm just reflecting, like, why was I embarrassed? I don't know the answer, but I think, some of it is we don't, the way our kids portray themselves. We sometimes don't want that to be reflected on us. which honestly doesn't have any impact on us whatsoever. Another situation that we had was my kids do jujitsu, and they went while we were in Texas. They did like a guest pass, and they went to do jujitsu at a guest gym. And my son was rolling with a higher belt, older, and he got smoked. He kind of got beat pretty bad, and he started crying at this guest gym again where I don't know anybody. He walked off the mat, and like my first reaction was like get back on that, get back on the mat. Like, don't walk off, don't cry. But I held that back because of similar conversations that we've had in the mastermind. And instead I just opened my arms, and he came and like hugged me, and he was crying. And I thought to myself, like, don't react the way that you want to react. Instead, just embrace and encourage and show love. Because naturally I would be embarrassed. I would have been embarrassed for my kid to walk off the mat crying. So I've been on both sides of the table. It's just an interesting thought process to go through.
I just think there's an honesty element, right? Like when people say, well, I don't care what other people think of me, I'm like, dude, you're so full of baloney, man. Like everybody cares. It just depends on what it is. But I think, because we want to get to solutions, right? So I think when we are honest and we assess these things, we can realize, and also we talked about this on a podcast recently that's going to come out. We talked about the modeling, right? And so when I tell my kids, hey, you shouldn't care. Why do you care what that person thinks? Like, why do you care? But then if I don't go dance, like it's obvious. Like they can connect those dots. Like, well, why do you care, Dad? Like, why do you care? And so I think there's an intentionality, and no, it's also in the moment to project forward when you're assessing these things and be like, okay, will I regret not doing this? I will. What do I regret more? Potential embarrassment because I'm up there dancing with my kids in front of a bunch of people that I don't know or care about, or that embarrassment, or in a week looking back and be like, man, I should have danced with my dang kids. Like, well, I think being in the moment to be able to, kind of hit pause and think, okay, will I regret this or not? No, I won't. Okay, cool. Like, make your decision and own it. And then you don't go back to it with regret. I think that's everything. That's everything that we do. Right. And I think it's, I just think it's important to try to strive to live that level of intentionality so that we don't get to a point where we're like, I regret. Like if I were ever to let go of my son's hand, dude, I will regret that for the rest of my life. Be like, hey, dude, we'll hold hands later. Like I will regret that for the rest of my life. So I don't do it. And maybe there's an initial tinge of embarrassment, but I'm like, why am I embarrassed? Like, who gives a rip? The funny thing is, I mentioned this story to some dads the other day, and they were like, oh, my kid never holds my hand. And I'm like, would I rather be in their seat or would I rather be in my seat?
Yeah.
And 100% of the time, with, unequivocally, I would much rather be in my seat than theirs. And so you just have to think about those things, right? And be like, who gives a rip? Like, I go dance, and a bunch of parents are like, yeah, what really transpires is that when they go home, their kids are gonna be like, man, that dad that was dancing, it was so fun. And then that person now has to deal with, I'm not that guy. Yeah. You have to make a decision, right? Like, do you not want to be that guy, or do you want to be that guy? Do you want to be the guy that your kids are like talking about because you did something, you modeled something, or do you want to be the guy that sat on the sideline and just, sat on the sideline? And so I told some kids, it's funny when it's not your kid too. There were a couple kids at football practice. Dude, these kids at 5th grade football and below, and probably up to, I don't know when they stop, but they cry like they get hit, and they come out of the game crying because it hurts. But the thing that happens, and I'm curious if this happened with Wells, your son, but you just encourage them and they go back out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. You go back out like, hey. And so for me, there was a kid first year, just like Jake, and he cried like the first 3 practices when we started hitting. But I pulled him. So I'm like, hey, dude, I don't care if you cry. And in one of the practices, he started crying. He was crying. And then he started just like bawling. I don't know. He just started hitting beautifully, beautiful tackles, like everything. And I pull him aside, I'm like, hey, dude, I don't care if you cry. If you play like that when you cry every time, cry every game, all game. I don't care. Like, I think you're amazing. You know, it, don't worry about the crying. Don't be embarrassed. If you hit like that and you're crying, the dude's going to be like, it's going to be very confusing for them, but
Yeah.
they're going to know that you smacked him in the face, and you're going to have a lot of fun. Crying is fine. Like, this whole idea that we shouldn't cry and teach our boys not to cry, like, all this stuff is nonsense. So same thing in the same vein, it's just nonsense to be embarrassed. Like, if you really think about it, like, who gives a rip? And if a dad is going to judge you and try to embarrass you for going out and being a dad and playing with your kids and doing stuff with your kids, like, that dude has some digging to do, right? Like, dude, you actually have the problem. You don't want to be an influence in your kid's life for positive. Like, you got a problem. That's on you. Good luck. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
And so it's just but I just don't think we think about it. There's
Right.
social, quote unquote, norms or social pressures. We cave to those. If you think about it, it's just peer pressure. Like, we're caving to peer pressure because someone else might think something differently. Okay, who cares? Your kid doesn't hold your hand. Like, I should be proud of that. That should immediately be like, heck yeah, my kid holds my hand. My kids kiss me, you know? Because if that day comes where it doesn't happen, man, you're gonna be sad. It's gonna be a sad day.
Yeah. I love
So
it, man.
when your kids don't want to dance with you, it's gonna suck, man. Dad, you're so embarrassing. I'm going through that now with my daughter. Like, Dad, stop. I'm like, dude. But for me, I'm like, hey, if you show me that annoys you or embarrasses you, like, that's your bad, because it is getting, now it's coming stronger.
Yeah, because I'm gonna do it more.
Because I'm gonna do it more. I'm gonna
Men,
completely ostracize. Make sure
don't
that you want to ostracize me.
don't be embarrassed. Get
Don't
out
be
there, play with your
embarrassed.
kids. Go dance
Play
on
as
the
a
dance
kid, man.
floor. Go
Yeah,
play pirates on the playground. Be the
100%.
dad that they flock to,
Be the dad they flock to. Giddy
in
up.
a good way.
Get off the sidelines.
Yeah,
Don't be a sideline dad. That's
love it.
lame.
Giddy up.
See ya.